Now that we've gotten a pretty good handle of the Blender interface, let's go into how to use the 3D viewport, which is this window in the middle. This is the one that you're going to be using the most. Now, when you're working with 3D models, you are looking at a two-dimensional screen. So in order to perceive things in 3D, you need to rotate your camera, your viewport, I should say, I need to be more specific. Your viewport, you're going to be rotating that around your objects to see every single side of it. So let's talk about how to move your 3D viewport. Right now we are looking top down on our object. You can change what direction you're looking at an object using the numeric keypad on your keyboard. If you have a laptop, this might be a problem because you're going to use these buttons quite a bit. If you press 7 on the numeric keypad, then you're going to be looking straight down. If you press 1, you're going to be looking at it forward, and if you press 3, you're going to look at it from the side. Now, we have a cube, so it's kind of hard to tell what direction you're looking at, so I'm going to change this object to something else. Now, the space bar brings up your toolbar. This gives you a whole bunch of options. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Add, Mesh. I'm going to add a monkey primitive. I'm going to press Tab to get me out of edit mode. And I can also change the draw type. So I'm going to select wireframe mode for now. So now I can, see through objects in wireframe. So 7 on the numeric keypad, I can look at it from the top, 1 looking at it from the front, and then 3 looking at it from the side. I can also use the 4 and 6 buttons on the numeric keypad to rotate my camera around. I can use the 8 and 2 to rotate my camera up and down. Now you'll notice that right now I am in orthographic mode, which basically means there is no perspective. In order to turn perspective on, I press 5, which is right in the middle of the numeric keypad. So now I have perspective. Now, using the numeric keypad for rotating the camera around isn't very intuitive. It's really nice when you need to look precisely above, precisely in front, and precisely to the side using the 7, 1, and 3 buttons on the numeric keypad. But other than that, you're probably going to want to use the mouse to rotate around. To do that, hold down the middle mouse button and drag. Now you can see that you are rotating around the object. One thing you'll notice really quickly is that depending on where you start to middle mouse, click and drag on the screen does make a difference. Okay, one little trick. If you press Shift Spacebar, your active window becomes full screen. So for this demonstration, I'll make things a little bit easier. Okay, now imagine your 3D viewport is like a trackball. It's just one big huge trackball. If you put your finger at the middle of the trackball, as if I'm holding down the middle mouse button, like right now, and then move it to the side, imagine the trackball how it would rotate. It would rotate, directly left and right. So I'm just going to let go. And then middle mouse click and drag from the center, and then moving up. Now, if you had a trackball and you started touching it from the side, and then started moving your finger around, especially around the edge, your trackball is going to start rotating clockwise and counterclockwise. It's going to roll. So the same thing happens. If I have my mouse over here, and then I start to middle mouse click and drag, now you can see our view is starting to roll. Now, this will take a little bit of getting used to, but the nice thing about this is that I now have, I can now rotate using 3 degrees of rotation with only the middle mouse button. All I have to do is just start clicking on different parts of the viewport to start moving around. So again, if I start at the edge, I will be able to roll the view, and if I start at the middle, I can just pitch up and down and then rotate it left and right, like so. Okay, that'll take a little bit of practice. You'll definitely want to start getting the hang of that really quick. So practice with that a lot. Now, to zoom the interface in and out, the best way to do that is to just use the mouse wheel. Just zoom in and out in the 3D viewport. Also, you can hold down Control and then click and drag with the middle mouse button up and down, and that will allow you to zoom. Also, if we want to move our view around, press Shift and then middle mouse click and drag. I'll just allow you to simply rotate the view. Or, sorry, move the view. Now, one thing will happen is when you start to move the view around and zoom in and out and you're looking around, the pivot point is somewhere in the middle of your screen, and sometimes it isn't what you want. It's going to be kind of tricky for me to set my viewport, to pivot around, like let's say the monkey. So an easy way to set the pivot point of the viewport is to simply select an object, which you do by right-clicking. So I'm going to select the monkey by right-clicking on it, and then press the period key or the decimal key on the numeric keypad. Okay, so that takes my view and centers it on the selected object. Now there's some other things we can do. If our scene gets really complex, we can, simplify the view a little bit. One thing you can do is if you press the divide key on the numeric keypad, it puts you into local view. And what that means is that the currently selected object is the only one that is visible. You can see that my light source and my camera and the cube that was outside the monkey are now hidden. If I want to bring it back, I just press the divide key on the numeric keypad again, and then it all comes back. Also, if you get lost in the 3D viewport, like, I don't know, all the way out here somewhere and you can't see a thing, all you have to do is press the Home key on the keyboard, and it will try and take all the objects and then fit them on screen for you. So that's a good way to see everything in your scene if you get lost. Also, we have our shading types. We have this little button right here. Remember, I switched from solid to wireframe. So I can select solid. So it gives me a... I select shaded. Okay, solid is basically, just simple OpenGL lighting. There's no dynamic lighting. It's just lighting so you can see the object as well as possible. I'm going to remove this block really quick. Okay, so I right-clicked to selected it, the decimal key on the numeric keypad so I can center my viewport on it. And here you can see the solid shading makes it so I can see the object pretty much fully lit. Now, if I click on shaded, what this does is it gives me a preview of what the lighting in my scene will do to my objects. So here you can see I have this light source over here. It's casting light in that direction, and this is what it will pretty much look like when I render it. I mean, granted, there's no textures on this right now. There is a textured view, which does something similar, and that will allow you to see textures on your objects in real time. Then you also have some simpler ones, like let's say bounding box, which just shows the bounding box of the object. So let's just put this back on solid. Okay, now that we've moved our camera around and understand how we can view these objects, here we can also do what are called layers. Now your scene is probably going to start getting complex, and you don't want everything to be visible all at once. So we can organize our objects and put them on layers. Okay, I'm going to bring my other windows back by pressing Shift Space. I'm going to go to my Object, Context buttons, and here you can see I have some layer buttons as well. Okay, this shows what layer the object is currently on. Now, when I say layer, I'm not referring to the way you might think layers work in, let's say Photoshop, or the GIMP, or some other graphics program. Basically, these layers or just a way to organize, what's visible and what isn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create some monkeys to illustrate this. Just so you know, I pressed Shift D for duplicate. We're going to go over that again later. But now we have our 3 monkeys, and I don't want all of these to be visible. I only want this middle one to be. So I can take these monkeys and put them on, let's say layer 2. Okay, so that monkey's disappeared, but it's still there. Same thing with this one. I just moved it to layer 2. Now the reason why I can't see those monkeys is because I'm currently, this viewport isn't set to have layer 2 visible. I can just click on that layer, and now I can see what's on layer 2. If I want to select multiple layers, I hold down Shift and then click. Okay, and we can put anything on any layers that we want. Like let's say this light source. We can hold down Shift and then left click on these ones. So now this light source will be available on all of these layers. Now one thing you need to remember is if you can't see it here, then you can't see it when you render it. So if I only have layer 1 on right now, and I try and render something, that's the only monkey that's visible. Which, this does come in real handy when you start doing compositing effects. But, just remember that you probably want to have all your objects available on, let's say, layer 20. So become comfortable with using layers because it will help you make your scene simple when you start working on it. Another trick you can do is if you select multiple objects, you can select multiple objects by Shift and right-clicking on them. And then if you press M, you can set all of these objects what they're going to be on. So I'm going to set these 3 objects to be visible on all layers. Click OK, and now you can see they're on those layers. Otherwise, if I was just going to use these buttons right here, I have to set that for every single object. And one last thing, these layer buttons do have keyboard shortcuts that you can use. To do that, you just press the 1 through 0 keys on your keyboard. These are the number keys that are, above the letters, not on the numeric keypad because they are separate shortcuts. So 1 through 0, that is a keyboard shortcut, so you can access layers 1 through 10. And then if you want to access layers 11 through 20, you hold down Alt and then 1 through 0. So that way you can do that without having to click on these buttons. Also, you'll see this little lock button right here. That means that if you make any changes to these visible layers, they will affect all 3D viewports. So if you want to have different viewports on your screen have different layers visible, then you uncheck that. Okay, that does it for this video. And next we're going to start talking about moving objects.